Welcome, my name is Stefan Karisula. I'm a director for youth and technology development in Uganda, and at the same time, graduate researcher from Ireland at Project Macquarie University. I welcome you to the third episode of the webinar titled Data-Driven Mobile Applications. And this is one of the topics we discussed during the Farmers Access to Data Symposium workshop that was supported by CTA, GODAN, and GFAR and hosted by ITOCA. I take this opportunity to thank Varelia, Dan, as one of our main training coordinators. And what we are going to look at today, we are going to look into the importance of mobile applications, the main challenges that do come with the data, mobile applications, and the possible applications that can be developed to enhance or to contribute to the precision agriculture. I will also give some illustrations for the mobile applications that we have today. And lastly, we shall look into the database as well as data-related questions. Why do we need mobile applications? The farmers, the producers, the buyers, the cooperatives, and all that are involved in agricultural value chain. But if you have an application that can help you in planning, probably to tell when, what, and how to plant, that will be very useful. Also, if that application has a feature whereby one inputs a certain crop and estimates the possible costs or expenses that one is going to incur, all the required farm inputs he or she is required to do a certain kind of to measure a certain kind of crop, or to do a certain livestock farming activity, that would be very useful. These applications also help to get an insight on what's happening on a farm, and this is what we call monitoring and assessment. You find an application that can tell you how your crops are performing in terms of nutrients levels, or you have an application that can get you a real-time picture that you can analyze that application to assess the level of stress for the crops, or you have an application that helps you to get schedules or make schedules for the irrigation schemes. That will be very, very useful. They also help in forecasting. Applications that do help in predicting market prices or demands season after season, or an application that helps you to identify or make use of the climate weather patterns, or helps you to predict or project how the weather patterns will be in the next season or season after season. That will be very, very important. Applications will help in achieving the interoperability objective. If you have data sets coming from different information systems or data management systems, the best way probably you can have is if you have an application that you can use to correlate or to merge or to compare different data sets, then that will be also very helpful. And lastly, the 2 points I would like to discuss also is availability and reusability of data or information. So applications that do help you to access the right key data on your farm, it's very, very important. For example, markets information, or it helps you to get weather data or climate data. That application will be very useful. And lastly is reusability. If you have an application that helps you to collect real-time data season after season, ideally you will also need to use that same data in another season, or you would like to share it with a different user who is interested to know. So when you look at the objectives or the importance of these applications, they're a bit broad. So applications are supposed to be useful in a sense that they're supposed to accomplish the needs of user. But we have the challenges today. The reason why we have very many applications clogging on the Google Play, and if you look at the comments along, they're not really helping, because most of the applications do use the data that is not accurate, or information that is not accurate. All that information is never delivered on time. For example, market information, this is data, this is the information that keeps on changing every now and then. So when we have applications that do really certify this objective, then that will be very, very important. And the other is trustworthiness, relevance. When the relevance of the application is not clearly defined, and when you look at the quality of the data it uses, it does not really help or guide any way the farmer to make a given decision on a farm, or a given to make a given decision probably in the market, something like that. So these applications are supposed to be relevant, and at the same time, the usability. When you look at the usability, most of the applications are very complex. Yeah, the terms that they use, the terms that developers use, or the flow of the day of the applications, or what the user really perceives as the first time he uses the application. When he fails to figure out what to do with it, he will definitely not put focus on it. And the last is affordability. You know that most of the applications are hosted on high-level API phones. So this requires one to get an expensive phone, so that is able to probably to carry out some data analysis or visualization, or try to outsource data, or try to compare data from different data sets. All this application has a camera that helps you to do some real-time monitoring. All this phone or the application basically requires a system requirement whereby the application gets the application gets the image from the farm, and you may need to process this image to identify how your crops are stressed. So this will require really a high-end phone of a good image processing capability to achieve this. So all that said, we are saying that in the developing cycle, in the programming cycle of these data-driven applications, the user always has to be placed at the center of the design. And this is going to help us to really develop solutions that are tailored to the specific needs of the user or the. So let's look into the possible applications that we can develop. One, we can look into applications that help you ideally access information. Okay, we can call it an e-growers. Probably this application is connected to the information management system, or a given data management system. So when you look at this application, ideally this can be very helpful for growers, especially applications kind that gives you information and data from pre-planning to post-harvest. And when you look at the features this application can have, is when you have a feature of farmer registration, probably you're having windows where the farmer inputs his or her own details, and that would really show that ownership, like he has to own the application. Or you have features like cashless payments. Whereas the farmers today, or the users today, especially in Ugandan context, most of the people dealing in agriculture always need token. Yeah. So when you have that feature in your application, probably this will be helping the farmers to make to receive the payments in time, and easier to access. They don't have to go to the bank probably to make lines, or to go through all that long process of getting the money, or the Visa card. You know, most of them are illiterate, so they need quick and easier cash payment methods. So the other can be on crop management. When you have an application that has that feature, one is able to determine what kind of nutrients is required in the soil, or for this crop to be better. So probably this is connected to the remote sensors in your garden. Yeah, so this will be very important. And that is animal management. When you look at animal management, it is very, very essential. For example, when you look at if you have a farm and you have sensors probably tagged onto the cows, and you're trying to examine the feeding rates, their health status. You're trying to assess the level of stress. Probably you're trying, you have some remote cameras on your farm. You're trying to monitor in real time how your farm is behaving. So this will be very important. And the other is traceability. When look at today in the fishing sector of Uganda, for the fishermen to identify that this is my fish, when you reach the landing site where there is a collection center from different fishers, they really have to cut that fish. Everyone cuts the fish in a different way. But we look at this as something that is very, very backward. So when you have an application that helps you to trace your fish, probably this has if you have a QR code, a QR code is connected onto the fish. It will be easier for someone to track, even the customer probably to track where the fish came from. So things of this kind are very, very important. Others like credit scoring and loan applications. Because remember when one is these applications and probably they're making some payments, yeah, so you end up generating financial data or information. So one would really rely on this data to be taken to the banks, probably lobby for the loans. Yeah. So when you look at the benefits, ideally, the benefits are very interesting. They hope anyone who's involved in agriculture or any farming activity to make informed decisions. Yeah. And one of some of the benefits are really very helpful, especially when it comes to data analytics or giving insights into what's happening in the farm or market dynamics. Let's look into another application. The other is called e-inputs. When you look at the e-inputs, it really favors those service providers, the people who provide farm requirements, people who provide farmer inputs. For example, fertilizer, irrigation scheme, seeds, animal feeds, or other any input material. So when you have an application that helps them to manage such outputs or such inputs that they provide to the user or to any farmer in the agricultural value chain, this will be very important for them, and probably whereby the farmers or anyone requiring a service would easily use this application to probably connect to these suppliers, then that will be very better. And also these suppliers, service providers will be able to locate a community where the support is required. So this can be in a USSD form, the messaging platform today, and this can also favor phones that are not like smartphones, whereby they keep on getting text messages from service providers on what is happening. So when we look at the benefits, it also helps them to reach out to their intended users in time, and also help them to regulate the price in the market, and also providing credit reference, yeah, and the real-time data on input stock levels. It is also important if you're able to monitor how much stock you have and how much do you release in a day. So such applications are very helpful not only the farmers but also the service providers in the agricultural chain. The other, we can also look at the e-agri wallets. E-agri wallets are common in Uganda today because realize that the farmers really normally face challenges in the use of the banking system, the Visa card and the credit card. So they normally opt to have better and easy agri wallet systems. So this can be an application probably that is more like a savings scheme that tracks all their savings schemes, how much money you've saved, how much money, how much profits you've made, the losses that you've got, and what you need to do prior to get a loan from the bank, or how can you go over money issues in terms of managing your farm. So or probably you're trying, this application has an input where you input all the costs in card and gives you the total expenses and the losses on the profits or the net profit that you've got. So such applications are very easy, especially when you're trying to access some financial services or try to liaise with an investor to put money into your business. So this will be very, very important. So the other can be information. This is a bit interactive an application, more like a Q&A, whereby one is able to log into the system, log into an application, probably access some videos or audios on how to go about a certain activity. So for example, the instance we had in Uganda last year concerning the armyworms, if probably we had such an application whereby the farmer is able to listen to that audio or to watch that video how to overcome such a worm or such a pesticide, then this is very, very important. So we can have information in audio form or in video form. So we're looking at the farmer reducing on his memory load to really think hard to make this decision on a farm. So these applications are mainly aimed to make the decision making process very easy. So the other is e-trace. So e-trace, I explained this in one of my slides, and I said when we look at e-trace, it's very important for livestock keepers and poultry farmers. Yeah. So when we look at e-tracing, if you have tags or RFID tags on your cows, and you're able to track where they are, or you're able to track where you what's the feeding behavior in your poultry farm, or probably have these lactometers and you're trying to measure the content of the milk, and it gives you all these details. So applications of this kind really are very, very important in the sense that they can grant traceability and the quality of food security. If you're able to trace where your fish, I'm a consumer and I get that fish, and I may need to know why the fish came and who did the fishing. So such information is very, very important. That's if it's linked in there. It has been linked in the right manner. So the other is e-farm plant. E-farm plant, it can be a very good application whereby one is able to input a certain kind of crop. This application estimates the right seeding date according to the cropping calendar, or it gives an estimation of the farm inputs, tools, or the cost that is going to incur, or it's trying to help this farmer to get projections or predictions on how much he'll get given the fact that the costs have been factored in. Or this application helps him to really know how much he has got, he's about to get in a given season. So the other can be a data chatbot. So data chatbots are basically an AI-driven system introduced by Facebook, and this is more like a Q&A data set applications, whereby, so if you have this application, probably you just access it, type in a question, you just get a feedback straightforward. So these such applications are very easy to help these farmers make informed decisions. Probably you're trying to find out what is the climate, what will be the climate in next season, yeah, or you're trying to find what is the market price in this kind of region, yeah. You're trying to get how to treat army worms, how to deal with this. So this is very helpful in the sense that you reduce on the burden for the farmer or for the user to really find out how to get the answer or how to access the answer, or what's the best practice of getting over a certain situation. So let's look into the illustrations we have. So we have this is a very good application that many are using today in Uganda. It's called Agro Market Day. So the Agro Market Day, it's looking at market data, farm inputs, costing products, and agriculture news. And it also has a training material whereby one is able to listen to the video, watch the videos, or listen to the audio. So let's look at what is this application ideally. So when you register with this application, you're able to sell online, you're able to upload your produce, inputs, or value-added products, probably processed, yeah. And with that, you can also become a buyer, whereby probably a middleman or a wholesaler, a retailer, or a supermarket, yeah, or a hotel or a restaurant. So you can be a buyer. You just need to create an account and try to access all those products with that application, and you just make direct orders when you feel, when you want, and they're delivered at those steps. So the other is online farming guide. So these guides have really helped many, especially to overcome certain alerts or to get good insights on how to treat certain cases. So these training materials normally in audio and video form. So probably if I'm doing poultry, it shows you how to do the feeding, how to generate those formulas according to the stage of the chickens, or it's trying to give the clear cutting edge guide on how to treat a certain kind of disease or pest or to deal with it. So with that, It can also help to find the markets in Uganda. These are some of the main markets we have in Uganda, and they're subdivided into central, east, west, and north. So when you look at these markets, really, when one clicks on a certain market, it gives you the trending market prices per crop, per product, and you're able to tell how is this performing. Yeah, you're able to know how are the prices varying in different regions. So the other is the farmer app. So with the farmer app, it's a bit informative. You're able to get the best practices, the possibilities, and how to go about them. This is very good. I've really used it because this information is very accurate, and some of it is linked to the BioInnovate platform. So you can just look into that platform and you get to see what you can do. So the other is Abalobi. Abalobi is a South African application developed by an NGO called Abalobi in South Africa, and it helps to link the fisherman or the fisher to the right customer. So there are very many modules, yeah. So there's a fisher module, the coop app or the cooperatives module, the wallets module, the how to cook module, and the marketplace module. So with these modules, ideally, when you look at a fisher or the person who does the fishing, when he gets this fish probably on the hook or in any other method, he gets that fish, he puts on a puts it on a QR code, and he wants to see who are the farmers. Now this is post-harvest. So when you have the cooperatives, probably these are trying to bargain or to come up with your products. Yeah, so when they accept it now, then it comes with that QR code, and one is able to access all that information on a mobile phone and is able to act, or the customer is able to trace where that fish is coming from. Then the transport services really get that up, get that fish and transport it. So when it reaches the customer or the buyer, he is able to tell where and who did the fishing. So the unique identification is basically the QR code. So when I'm in the hotel, I scan on that fish and probably get all the connections or to the person who did the fish and probably send a feedback message. Thank you. It's wonderful fish. So we look at the possible applications that one can use in any situation. Probably you're trying to find out the best way to make decisions on a farm, or you're trying to get an application that can help you to collect the data. So you can look into this CTA app database. It was basically an initiative convened in by CTA to come up with a platform where most of the tested, verified, and important application can be hosted, and you're able to access them and probably use them for meaningful purposes. So lastly, let's look into the data related questions. These questions are very important. Yeah. So it comes with the developers themselves and everyone that is involved in the data value chain. This involves the policymakers, the social workers, and the service providers, and the farmers themselves. This also takes up with the innovators, people who develop these solutions or customize these solutions to help the users to make informed decisions. So we shall look into discovering the data. When you look at applications that you need to use or the application that you have to use, then think about how to discover the data. Ask yourself these questions and make sure you get these answers. What question can I answer using the data, first of all? Before you develop an application that is basically on data driven agriculture, ask your question, what answer are you going to provide to the user? And when you get the data, do you understand it first of all by yourself? Yeah, and are you permitted probably to use it? And are you able to access the data? And how best do you understand this data set? Yeah, and lastly, you can look into, is this data going to be supported long term? Because most of the data sets are coming from NGOs or research organizations. When the project runs for 5 years, it's kept at hold, it's just kept there. So you need to ask yourself, how supported is this data going to be in the long run? So, and the other is consistency. Is data clear? If it's not clear, then devise means of making it probably in application so that you don't mislead the user at the end. And how much effort, how much investments are you going to make in the use of this data in the application? And are you going to make an application free or at a cost? Yeah. So the other is your data generic? Is it so specific to a certain feature that you need to focus on. If it is climate, if it is weather, how specific is that data? If I'm in a certain region and I get weather data or climate data for entire Uganda, that is not going to help me because it is not specific to a specific region. So look at the speciality, the generosity of this data. So the other questions are a bit technical. In what format is the data available? And in what format are you going to make this data available to the user if you're going to process it into information? What metrics, what units are you going to tag along? Yeah. So the other is you're looking at, is the data variable from a consistent location? And is data well structured and machine readable? When you look at most of the APIs probably that you're going to see in application, probably they're trying to access data from different sources. Yeah, but when you try to use these different APIs, how effective are they in terms of getting this data in its real time, and you try to compare it or try to compare the two data sets and you get the right decision. Yeah, so is that data really machine readable? Because most of the data that is got from different sources, you may find challenges with extracting that data because it's incompatible. Yeah, and is that data set, can it be accessed through an API, the application programming interface? How easy can it be accessed? If it's not an API, can it be through a JSON script? Probably you have to access a CSV file that you have to download and upload and extract. Yeah, so the other social things that you need to think about is there an existing community of users of the data? First of all, is the data already relied upon? Yeah, look at the comments of those people's data sets, especially for market. That is the information that mostly misleads a farmer because it helps them to know when to do the selling, when to do a certain kind of cropping, and this also has to depend on the weather data. So you're looking at how genuine, what's the quality of the data, how easy is it to be used. Yeah, and is that data probably officially supported? Because most of this data is not officially supported, probably from non-government organizations. Most of it is not accurate, but when you look at the data that is goes through the government hand, it has probably gone through series of process to make it valid. Yeah, so however, ask your question before you get this data into your application, or you're trying to get this data to be used by your application. Is that data officially supported? So the other is it clear who maintains this data? Because remember, you are not the data owner, but you are the data looker. You have to look out for that data, but who supports it every now and then? And lastly, we look at provenance. We're looking at the ownership, we're looking at the source, who owns the data. So the question that you're going to be asking yourself is, are the other sources of the data clear? Yeah, is that data wholly owned and produced by the data provider? Does anyone else produce comparable data for cross-checking? Are the other sources of data clear? Are other sources of data trustworthy and compared with other data providers? So these are some of the guidelines that were availed by GODAN, and they have really helped us to go about these questions, and also they have helped us to guide us during the application development, because most of the applications we develop today, especially in Uganda, most of them are not really tailored around the users. That's why there are very many of the Play Store, but when there are comments, no one uses the application. Yeah, so we need to create that trust in the service we're providing them. But to create that trust, we are making sure the service we're delivering is of higher quality, not quantity. Lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Valeria Pesh from GFAR, Dan Bain, 1 hour training coordinator during the Farmers Access Data Symposium, and I would like to thank CTA, GODAN, and GFAR for initiating all these